Right, hello everybody, and welcome to another one in my experience interviews with entrepreneurs, creating role models for future entrepreneurs, but also giving us the story of their journey so far as to how they've managed to develop a business for themselves. Today we're talking with Shubham Khanna, and he is from GinGin, which is a Goa-based gin company. Sounds absolutely fascinating, and I'm really looking forward to hearing a lot more about this because it's combining sustainability, innovation, and really interesting thinking in what is an emerging area within the growing cocktail culture in India. So welcome, Shubham. I'm going to hand over to
Thank you so much for
Shreya
having me.
Agarwal, as always, a good friend of ours who hosts these interviews for us. So hopefully you'll enjoy it, and it'll give you a taste for some gin at the end of it. I know I will. Shreya.
Thank you so much, Helen. Thank you for a lovely introduction as always. And thank you, Shubham, for agreeing to do this and taking
Thank
time
you so
out on
much
a
for having me.
Saturday. Thank you so much. All right. Without wasting a lot of time, let's dig in. We know how, India is a country of brown spirits, but we've also seen how the white spirits are doing extremely well. And one of them is gin, definitely. So can you take us through the journey of the first hemp-based gin in the country?
Okay, so when I started working on the brand almost six and a half years ago, there were not many gin brands in India. There was hardly two, I think. There were Strangers and Sons and Greater Than. They were the only two ones. And India being a very, very brown spirit forward country, it was a big pain as to, well, I had to learn everything from scratch as to how to distill, what people would love, what people won't. And yeah, it was a big pain. But yeah, so what happened? So India is a very Western influenced country. So whatever happens down in the UK is followed a couple of years later. And back in 2017, when I started working on the brand, the gin revolution was just about to start in India because the cocktail revolution already had started. There were multiple cocktail bars opening up, and some of them are like the world's top 50 bars. So things were picking up. People were getting more and more educated in terms of what they want to drink and how they want to drink and how they like their particular spirit. So it just made sense. How it all started was so gin was never meant to be like a business for me. It started out as a passion. Like being born and brought up in a Punjabi household, alcohol was always there. It's just we started drinking with family when I was 16, which is this is something I shouldn't say, but still. So I started drinking and slowly and slowly from whiskey I moved towards gin because that was something because every gin I tried was very different. Like every distiller's idea of a gin is very different, and gin being such a versatile spirit, if you don't like gin, you just haven't found the one for you. So, coming from Delhi, where all my friends are like whiskey people, like friends, family are more brown spirit forward people, I wanted to design a gin that I could enjoy with them, which started my journey back 6 years ago when I started designing the recipe for it.
So just curious, how did you end up using hemp as your one of the key ingredients?
Hmm. Okay, so this is so hemp came very recently. Hemp came during the very first lockdown that India suffered. So this is when I was literally ordering all the botanicals through Amazon and just throwing in a
Mhm.
pot still just to see what comes out. And hemp, and back then somehow I was also following keto. So I ordered some hemp seeds of Amazon. I was like, okay, I have some hemp seeds lying around. Let's just throw it in the pot still and see what comes out of it. And it just clicked because of a certain botanicals that we use in the gym, we use something called the butterfly pea flower, which is very tart in its profile. Hemp's oiliness gave it, let's say, balanced it out. So it just clicked. It was never meant to be a hemp gin, but it just moved everything over there.
So just to let you know, Helen, something very interesting about his brand, and I'm not sure why is he not mentioning that. He started with his alcohol brand at the age of 24. But, it's not the legal age in India. It's 25 when you start drinking. So that's very important.
Was this the only way you could get hold of alcohol? Be honest.
Exactly. I mean, you won't get a hold of alcohol, so start making your own.
That's fascinating.
And
started. Go for it.
So, Shubham, I was reading through a couple of articles before this interview, and very interestingly, there was this one line that I looked from this particular article. I don't remember where, but it's mentioned that India's first hemp gin is here, and it's so good that they named it twice. So, let's talk about the brand name then.
Okay, so brand name as well as the brand identity for us was okay. I'll start with what GinGin is, and then we go to that. So for me, a gin, like the gins I prefer, tend not to have any citrus element, and that is how GinGin was designed. We wanted to make a gin that is as base neutral for like a entry to. I mean, okay, wait. Let me just gather my thoughts. Okay, so the entire reason why GinGin was made, it was made as like an entry to a new spirit for people who just want to try out gin as like experiment with gin. There are people who are looking for their own spirit of choice, and that is why GinGin was. That is how GinGin was designed. That's the reason it's more spirit neutral. It's less on botanicals. It's vapor infused, so it's not very overpowering on a particular thing. Now, because we did all of that, we also wanted to make the brand synonymous with people, and we wanted to make it recognizable. And somehow, GinGin was my moniker when I started making the gin and Goa because of Chin Chin, and it just clicked. But while while designing an entire brand identity around it, we found out that the earliest possible known history of gin was during the 1100 AD in Italy, and Chin Chin, as you know, it comes from Italian, so it just clicked together. So
That's
I think I have to say it twice.
Thank you, Shubham, for sharing that with us because it's quite fascinating. We always talk about the importance of brand name. And if your brand name is catchy, it obviously leads to better brand recognition, then leads to further brand recall. So, it's very crucial, I feel, that should nail naming your brand, and there has to be a reason.
Yeah, so for us, we wanted recognizability at every touch point. That's the reason, you look at the fit here. So our logo is bare minimum. It's just a parallelogram. For me, parallelogram is the most soothing quadrilateral.
Yeah.
Because a square is a little too uptight. But yeah, so something like a parallelogram is recognizable. The name GinGin is something you'll never forget. And our entire bottle is see-through, making it less intimidating for new people to pick up and go. So we don't write anything on the bottle apart from the legal details that we need. No botanicals, nothing, no tasting profile, just because we want people to be more comfortable and less snobbish about what they drink.
That's quite interesting, actually. Now that you mentioned, yes, it's a very you look at it and you might just take it away. It's a pickup kind of a thing. Yeah, you might not think twice or be intimidated by the thought of taking it. That's quite interesting, actually.
And it's an interesting name because you can make it part of the theatre and the process of drinking. So the GinGin is kind of part of that cheers. And that's fun. That's actually making people think about something a little bit differently.
You can definitely add up to your brand experience. Maybe play around with it, innovate with it.
We just completed a 1 year and literally instead of saying cheers, we were just doing GinGin every night.
Yeah,
all the night.
It's great. It's really good.
So Shubham, now moving on to the fact that we've already spoken about how India is a brown spirit dominated country, right? But over the years we've seen how the white spirits are coming in, especially gin for that matter, right? And this has also led to a lot of influx in terms of the imported brands, right? Because you've seen India as a very upcoming market. However, in case of gin, I believe in the past year, India has done so well in terms of their own brands, right? You've got amazing brands coming up, beautiful brands. And I think this is one alcohol where where we consider um, hoarding or tasting Indian brands more than the outside brands, right? So I feel this is super interesting for the gin community. Okay, and how do you see these Indian brands, um, taking it a scale higher, right? Because of course the market is new. So India itself remains a big market, but you also think that these brands are also capable of going global, or does the market see themselves going global?
Yes. So the thing is, ever since more and more Indian brands have started launching in India, the education point of like the education expenses for most of the brands have gone significantly lower because the bigger the pie, the bigger the share for everyone. So everyone has been educating people as to how to drink gin, what to do, what not to do, and X, Y, Z. And that's the reason more and more people are comfortable buying Indian brands compared to the heritage brands that we've been getting in
Mm.
India forever. Also, India being like the spice hub of the world,
Right.
we've got everything at an arm's reach, and that's the reason and like our palate, we're more used to, let's say, we're more used to the spices compared to everyone else in the world. So the intricate balance is something that only we can achieve, and most of the brands in India are kind of moving towards that. In terms of brand recognition globally, there are a couple of brands which have been recognized, like so Hapusa won a double gold, which is one of the highest recognition we can get as a spirit brand.
Okay. But yeah, I think, yeah, this is quite exciting. Uh, Exciting stage for this industry, because they're just new brands coming up. I also remember one of my very dear friends. She's a journalist based out of Milan, and last year she written to me that I read this article. She's supposed to work on this article, which has these top 10 gin brands based out of India, because they specifically found the packaging so interesting in the Indian gin brands that they actually wrote an article on it. And that was the time when I started looking into the Indian brands, and I was like, wow, I'm not even aware of half of them.
Mm.
But I think it's a super exciting time for the industry right now, and especially where we always look at importing things. I feel this could be a turnaround fact, right? Where we also look at taking our homegrown brands global.
It is. So basically, what is happening in India right now is as more and more brands are coming out, and as more and more people are getting educated about, well, drinking in general,
Right.
uh, heritage companies like Diageo and Pernod and Bacardi started investing in these homegrown brands so that they can push more and more out of it. So if you look at it, Diageo, Pernod, and all the heritage companies have been just slightly afraid of Indian brands taking over their market share. So yeah, it's changing slowly. Slowly, we are going global. Slowly, people have started recognizing India as a spirit manufacturer and a good quality spirit manufacturer.
Yeah.
Mm.
Very important.
Mm.
On that, very interesting point that you mentioned, Shivalambia, that how consumers are getting educated, in terms of consuming these alcohol, right? Now, I know you personally, and I know how passionate you are as an alcohol, like that's something that you love, right? And hence, gin is part
I
of
do.
it. Yeah. So, as gin is your creation, right? How important do you think it is for you to ensure that your audience consumes it properly, or you think it is responsibility for the brand to ensure that the consumer has educated consumerism, in terms of knowing what they're consuming and doing it the right way?
See, as a brand owner, we tend to push a lot and lot more on education because every gin is made for a different purpose. Like as I said, every gin is different. Every
Yeah.
distiller's idea for gin is different. Everyone's palate is different. So that's the reason there will be some gins that you might not like, and there will be some gins that I might not like, but Helen might love. So as a brand owner, the only thing that we push more and more and more on is educating people or in terms of how to consume a particular spirit and what botanicals do what and how to taste a particular spirit, so that obviously they can. It is a party trick. They can go and act snobbish about it, but on the other hand, They'll get more educated as to what they actually enjoy and what they don't.
Exactly, very important. Yeah. So that I think gives them clarity that there's a reason why I don't like this gin and I like this one
Exactly.
better,
Yes. Yeah.
rather than
Yeah.
comparing both of them. This one's good or this one's not good. So this is something that I remember you explaining it to me, and that's when it hit me. Okay, not every gin is made in the same manner. It cannot be the same. It has to be different. That's how the process
Yeah.
is. Also,
So,
Shubham, you mentioned that every. Sorry, yes, please continue.
no, no, go for it. Go for it.
No, I was just mentioning that I think you also mentioned that every batch of gin is also different, right? Because
Exactly. So it's no two batches can be 100% precisely the same. That is purely because if you're making a craft gin, be it an onion dry, be it a contemporary, be it any other craft style of gin which is done in small batches, you tend to use fresh botanicals, fresh spices, fresh juniper berries, fresh, let's say, orange peels, and the produce can never be exactly the same.
exactly
There
the
will
same.
be weather conditions, there will be transportation, there will be freshness, and a lot of other factors involved. So, like a single gin brand, no two batches can like ever be the same. They'll differ slightly, like let's say a 2% difference at max, but yeah, they'll always change a bit.
Yeah, I think that's important for the consumers to know, right? So
Yeah, of course. I mean, if two batches of the gin taste the same, you just know it's an artificially made.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the key, isn't it? I was reading also about single shot distillation. So I'd not heard
Yeah.
about that before. So, why is that different? How is it different? What does that mean for the consumer, for the gin itself?
Okay, so primarily there are two methods of making a gin. One is a multi-shot gin and one is a single shot. Multi-shot distillation and a single shot
Mm,
distillation. In a multi-shot distillation, whatever you distill out of the bottle is whatever the distillate you get, it's a concentrate. So you have to cut it down with more alcohol,
yeah,
numb the flavors down, and then cut it down with water. While so in a multi-shot distillation, in a smaller amount of time, you can produce higher volumes of gin.
yeah,
So most of the lower end craft brands tend to do that
yeah.
because it's more cost effective and time efficient. On the other hand, a single shot gin is basically a distiller's entire point of view of what a gin has to be. So whatever comes out of the bottle, it is just watered down to bring to strength and bottle. There's no cutting it down with alcohol, no numbing of the flavors. It is whatever it was meant to be.
Okay.
But obviously, more time consumption, more electricity consumption, all of those things are there as well.
Does that make it stronger, or is it just because we're not trying to take lots more batches out of just one core original piece?
It's not. So the thing is, in terms of strength, it's the same. In terms of the flavor profile, it can differ because flavor profile it's entirely on the distiller's point of view whether he
Yeah,
wants it more overpowering or punchy or wants it more subtle. The only difference it makes is as a brand owner, if you're doing uh, if you're making like a economically priced gin, it makes sense to do it in a multi-shot style just
mm,
because it cuts down your costs significantly
right.
mm,
and time also. Because once you're making an economical gin, you have to do higher volumes.
mm,
So it's
mm-hmm.
much more easier to put like just a rough estimate. If we are doing a single shot distillation in a 100-liter pot still, one batch will be roughly 20 to 30 cases in a single
Mm,
shot distillation, while 20 to 30 cases is roughly, let's say, okay, 100 liters of distillate.
yeah.
Uh, while you're doing a multi shot, you can go as much as 1,000 liters for the
Mm,
same amount of time,
mm, mm.
if not 10 times more.
Okay. And how many people are there in the business?
Currently, there are 13 brands in India, 13 craft brands in India. Apart from that, there have been brands like Blue Ribbon, which have been there forever, but those are
Yeah.
artificially compounded gins.
Okay.
In terms of craft, there are only 13 or 14 as of now. And we'll see another 6, 7 launching in the next couple of months.
Okay.
Are they
And
good?
how many employees do you have? Is it you mainly? Is it a couple of others?
Currently, we're only a team of 3 people. So we just completed a 1 year. So our entire thing is to launch in Goa, test the market out, see what the response is like, and then expand.
Yeah, very
So
good.
by the end of next month, we'll be a team of at least 20 more people
Wow,
because we are
fabulous.
expanding in 6 states and we're expanding in 4 countries as well.
Amazing.
So
Well done. So you're internationalizing.
yes, we are. We'll be available in Singapore, Hong Kong, UK, and parts of US before, let's say, by the end of August at max.
Oh, UK. Good. I shall look out for it.
Helen
You
will,
should.
yes. Helen should keep an eye on that.
I mean,
Shubham,
you'll get a bottle way before that once you're here.
oh yes. We should actually, Helen, go to Goa and then try our ginger there. And meet
There are
Shubham.
so many reasons I'd like to go to Goa. This is definitely one of them, though.
Shubham, you just answered my next question. I was just about to ask you, what are the plans of taking the brand global? Yeah. And how do
Yeah.
you how do you approach this?
How do I approach the?
How are you approaching growing global? Is there anything apart from, in terms of marketing or branding, anything that you're doing?
So for us, how we run as a company is very different from how every other brand does. Our primary concern is to be placed at retail outlets before we reach bars.
Hmm.
So for the past 1 year, what we've done in Goa is to crack the retail market because if consumers are picking up our bottles, bars will just sell out.
Yeah.
So and that is what we're going to follow. So we're launching in Maharashtra, Karnataka, Pondicherry, Daman, Diu, Hong Kong, Singapore, all of those places.
Right.
And the first market to entry point is be available in every retailer and pick up like a couple of offbeat bars and just throw a party.
Mm.
Hello.
It's
Yes, we
okay.
can.
You're just frozen a little. That was all.
I think I lost you guys.
That's okay. We
Okay.
we
Now
hear
you're
you.
back.
Okay.
Yes, you're back, Shubham.
Perfect. Yeah. Just yeah.
Can we? Do you want to keep your video off?
Yeah. No, this is better. Uh, Electricity just went off. My Wi-Fi is connected to the hotspot.
Okay, all right, no worries. Um, okay, let me just wrap this up with another question that I wanted to ask you. Since we this is based on a lot of other research also now that Indian market is expanding, right, and it's just not
Yeah.
restricted to metropolitan cities, and for premium brands or even luxury brands for that matter. Initially, the thought was the crowd is your population is in these metropolitan cities. However, as I was reading, there has been articles where they've mentioned that how during the COVID time, right, since the brand is also born during the pandemic,
Yeah.
right, they've seen a lot of surge. They've seen a surge in demand even from the two-tier cities, for
Exactly.
even gin brands, which they're not aware about, right?
Yeah.
So, have you, in terms of your brand, did you even notice that you've got demand coming in? Do you have to cater to these markets now?
Yes, we saw. So even Goa is not a metropolitan. It's
Right.
it's almost a tier two. It's not exactly a tier three, but it's somewhere right there. And okay, Goa is a very different market compared to everyone else. But yes, we did with like during the lockdown. What happened was a lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people moved from working in an office to working from home. So most of the people went back, moved back to their families, or moved back to their own hometowns. That is the reason when people from metropolitan went back to their own hometowns,
Right.
which were either tier one, tier two, or tier three cities, they obviously have already acknowledged the taste and they know what they want. They started asking for Chinat at retailers, and started messaging us. Like we get at least 20 messages a day for people asking us to launch in Kerala, people asking us to launch in Pondicherry and Daman, India, and all of those places. So yes, it is increasing, and again, education is a very, very,
Very
very big
important
part of
role.
it. Yeah,
The reason why, the question was important was because then you see there is a change in the lifestyle consumption pattern, right? And now there is a demand, so there is market for it. So
I just like to say people are becoming alcoholics. Because that's like I'm not so fast.
for the business.
Of course, I mean, like if someone asks me what do you do, I was like, I'm just an alcoholic. That's it. I just make alcohol and I drink alcohol. There's nothing else I do.
In terms of making alcohol, Shubham, um, how do you all adapt sustainability at your end? Now that we know sustainability has become a norm, eventually
Yeah,
everybody needs to become a sustainable business, right? How is the brand adopting
exactly.
so?
Okay, so we as of now, in terms of brand for us, whatever we do is what like everything that goes in and out of the bottle is manufactured or procured everything in India, so it reduces our carbon footprint like significantly. Because if I'm looking at just botanical point of view, most of the brands that are currently available in India, they get their junipers from Italy or from
Mm.
Australia or from Africa. It increases the carbon footprint by way, like significantly higher. For us, all the botanicals come from obviously various parts of India. So our juniper comes from Ladakh, our hemp seeds come from Uttarakhand, we use lavender from Kashmir. It's all bundled from a significant, like, so we've got one person stationed at every state, one farmer so so all the botanicals come directly from farm. There's no middlemen involved. So we tied up with farmers to procure everything together and send it right to us. One is that. Secondly, what we do is uh, for the distillation process, we are the only brand in Goa as of now which uses less which wastes like less than 1% of water because all our water is recycled, it's recirculated, there's no wastage. So when we are distilling, we require a cooling condenser. And cooling condenser, we just reuse the water. We have got like multiple pumps involved just to do that. Just for that purpose. Uh, we are like currently literally we just started installing solar panels here yesterday so that we can reduce our electricity consumption. And yeah, that's more or less it that we have done as of now. Moving forward, obviously, we are trying to cut down our waste. So whenever we distill a gin, there is a lot of waste product in terms of the spent grains and the spent spices and berries and XYZ. So we are in the process of like fermenting it and making something out of it, or making either cattle feed or well a beer.
You have some very happy cows, I'm sure.
We will soon, yes.
Yeah, I think sustainability as a, it's more like a circular way of doing your business, more like a
Mm.
circular practice,
Certainly,
which is essential more than just um, a fad, I would say. It's become the new normal, right? We need to
It's
yeah,
practice.
actually a really good commercial process, though, isn't it? If you don't waste anything, you can actually commercialize every element of your ingredients that
exactly.
you're putting in. You're not going to be losing profit effectively because there's got to be a way of utilizing that waste material, whatever it might be. There'll be a way of doing it. I mean, we see it in the coffee industry now, going from, growing the coffee sustainably to producing it in a way which is minimizing use of power, to then actually making use of the coffee grinds and creating coffee based leather. So, these are all ways that just stop wastage at some point. So
So,
you can always make a profit somewhere out of those elements.
so on that note, like this is last year we were talking. We are currently still in talks with this company who's been trying to use the spent grains and spent spices and spent whatever we use to grind them down, add a bit of epoxy, and make bottles out of it. So everything that it's just like a circular economy.
Yes.
Whatever goes in the bottle comes out, becomes a bottle, and is filled up with gin and sent out again.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is slightly away as of now. It will take another couple of years at least. But yeah, that is also something that has been in process for a while, and it will come and come.
Well, even having clear glass bottles, whilst, most clear glass comes from a virgin source, actually, you're not putting colored glass into that recycling chain. And so actually you can
So
do it
our
again.
bottle, our bottle, if you see, is slightly greenish tint.
Slightly, yes, yeah. So you
Yes.
have some
So it's
recycled content there.
exactly.
Super. It's great. I mean, I just love talking to entrepreneurs about sustainability because they get it. I think a lot of other bigger brands that just think that they can carry on selling in the normal way, they don't think that they need to really address this. But it's being built into these new brands all the time by entrepreneurs. And that's why we put it absolutely at the heart of all of our courses and everything we talk about, because I don't think you've got a choice any longer.
Yes.
It is a sustainable business model in its own right, and it produces a competitive advantage at the moment. Sooner or later, everybody else will be doing it, so that competitive advantage is gone. But it will put the big brands that don't bother to do anything at a competitive disadvantage. So that's what we keep working towards, I think. So I'm really delighted to hear all the different ways that people are bringing sustainability that's relevant as well to their brand, not just running after the latest fad, but actually doing something which makes a difference. And water usage is a huge issue. So, yeah,
This is
your
a huge
production
issue.
process sounds great.
Thank you, Shubham, for such a amazing conversation that we've had today. It is full of insights. I'm sure viewers are going to take in a lot from that. Just ending on one note, one piece of advice that you want to give to any entrepreneur wanting to get into a premium segment, right? For example, the alcohol market for specific or anything as specific, even as your journey as an entrepreneur.
See, I'm a little too young to give any
No, that's fine.
insights on it,
Your
but
name, not advice, maybe.
yes. So for me, the only advice I can give is if you want to start something in the alcohol industry in India, for that matter, never give up because it will pull you down multiple times. India is not an easy market to launch or work in alcohol space because of all the taboos around alcohol. But it is worth. It's worthy. It's worth doing it. It's worth putting in that extra effort if you're really passionate about
Yeah, yeah. So be persistent.
it. Exactly.
Very
This is,
good.
yeah, and we are definitely excited for other Indian-based alcohol brands to come in because I'm
Very
sure that
much.
so the brands are so amazing, I feel, and it's such an exciting phase for them to flourish in this market, especially post-COVID, which I hope stays the way it is, right? So yes,
Let's hope for it.
Exactly.
Fingers
The
crossed.
world is waiting for some more exotic and
I know.
interesting craft brands. We need something. So I'm
The,
delighted that it'll be
the
coming to the
multiple more
UK.
coming.
Exotic is the word.
Multiple.
Good.
Exotic is the word.
It
Exotic is
is. You have more of a story than a lot of the gins, I know.
For me, it's
Thank you
just a
so much for
story of
your
fun and
time.
witty.
Yeah,
Thank you
that
so
was
much for
really
having me
helpful,
there.
really insightful, and
Thank you so
yeah,
much.
more power to you. I wish you every success, not only in your export business, but in building your India domestic business as well. Having strength in the home market is a fundamental precursor of having great success in the overseas markets too. So yeah, I'm looking forward to watching your progress and seeing how well you grow in the next few years. But well done.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much
Okay.
for having me.
Thank you, Shubham, for agreeing to do this, and I'm sure we had a lovely time.